Gary here for GMVFX again, welcoming to a new tutorial. As you can see, this one's about doing some planar tracking within Resolve. And what I'm doing is, what you can see right now is basically a little bit of footage where I've replaced a broken sign with a fixed sign. It's not the perfect job, but the point was that to show you basically how you can do that. That's it's my dog. She's lovely. So what you can see there is a very quick fade through between the tracked on plate over the top of the actual plate, and then it comes back in, so you can see actually what it's doing. So let's go straight into Resolve, and as you can see right here, what we have is a little sequence of myself and my dog out for a quick morning walk. And I saw the gate and I just thought, this is perfect. A friend of mine had recommended that he wanted to know how to do planar tracking inside of Resolve. Obviously you do it with Fusion, and so this I thought would be the best way to do it. So what you do is you select your shot in your edit, go new Fusion clip, click on that, and then where it says Fusion clip, you right click on that. No, not like that, Gary. Right click on that, and not open in timeline, but further down you can see open in Fusion page. So you pick that, and it takes you across to the effects panel, effects workspace, the next one across. And you can see, if I just turn off the metadata and the splines there, you can see I've got a media out and I've got a media in. And we're going to change it to a single view rather than the double view, which is the standard setting in the Fusion page. And I'm going to be on the first, just click on the metadata. You can see what I've got is I've got a sequence which has got 256 frames there. Starts at 0, ends at 255. Obviously we've got 256 frames because it starts at 0. And what I need to do is I want to take one frame of this and essentially freeze it. So I'm going to add a tool in here, and it's in the miscellaneous, and you can't quite see it in there. So I'm going to do, let's try this again, go insert tool, miscellaneous, there you go. And down the second from the bottom is time stretcher. So let's put that on. And at the moment it goes into the keychain between median and media out. So we don't want that. So I'm going to reconnect that. So actually the median one goes straight into the media out still, and the time stretcher goes out to itself. Now I've gone to frame 255 here. And that's because that's a very good plate, and it happens to be the last one, which is even easier for working later. And I'm going to go to the source time here. I'm going to type in 255. And you'll see there a little red keyframe there, and change it from blend to nearest because I don't want to do trying to interpolate, don't want to interpolate. See, the values are in between. It won't give you the exact frame. So I want frame 255, and then I'll pull it right the way back to the beginning of the sequence where you can see what looks like the first frame is 0, and then press 255 there. And now if I scrub in that, you can see what's coming out of media out 1, because it was the only thing that was viewing in the timeline. Now in window 2 you've got time stretcher, so now you can see that. By the way, to toggle a select object into the view plane, you just press 2 on your number pad. When it's in single frame, when it's in double settings, you press 1 for the left one and 2 for the right one. So there we have our media in, and we have a time stretch. Now what I want to do is generate, I need to generate some frame that I can layer over the top, and I'm doing this first just because it's kind of a nice little process. So what we're going to do is going to select create a paint node, drop that time stretcher into the paint node, and if you look across on the right hand side here, you can see the panel controls and how things have worked. So you can adjust the color and you can change it to a different type of stroke. So I'm going to pick the clone stroke, and you can see here that says a clone multi-stroke 1, and I'm going to increase the stroke duration to 256. There you go. And the reason I'm doing that is because I have 256 frames, and if I start trying to paint anywhere, it'll go wrong. So what I'm going to do is zoom in a bit by pressing plus. I'm going to press Alt, and then I'm going to go to my source, and then I'm going to start painting from that frame over the top of itself onto the picture. And because I'm on frame 0, I've got 256 frames of cleanup going on here. So I'll keep on pressing Alt to pick what are the point that I want and dragging it across. Now this, you can see it's got a little bit of the background through there. This is not, it doesn't pick up whatever you've just placed down. This is one single stroke using the background image. There probably is a way to do that, but I couldn't find it in the time when I was trying to sort this out, and I wanted to get this out as soon as possible. But what you can do if you want to do more than one set of strokes, you just do that. You just create a brand new paint node and plug your paint node into it, and then it will paint whatever is going into the paint node. So it allows you to just, do another layer of editing using what you've already painted as your source. As I say, there probably is a way to do that. So I'm just going to keep on painting away here, keep on removing all of the white, or at least as much as we need to. So let's get rid of those edges. There we go. That's nice and neat, and looks pretty much correct. Obviously, most of this is going to be covered over. So let's just try and make it feel a bit more like it's accurate. I mean, really and truly, what I should have done is that far left-hand corner looks a bit flowery, but there you go. Over the 256 frames, it's all still there, which is nice. Now, next thing, we need to create the sign bit. Let's just move these around a little bit. And what I need to do with that is create a background. So let's go Add Tool, Insert Tool, sorry. And we go Background. And what's happened there is that it's merged the paint over the background. Is that the right way around? No, sorry, no, that's merged the background over the paint, which is what I want. And if we go into the background and then we go change the solid color, well, that's fine. Let's change it to a 4-corner color. And let's pick some colors actually from the artwork that we're working with, the video footage in here. Yep, that's all. Yeah, that's all fine. Leave that as it is, Gary. Don't need to change that. No. Go here, back here, and then we'll go into the actual image settings and we'll turn off auto resolution. There we go. And we'll just make the background image smaller. So we can actually now see, because we're viewing the merge node, we can actually see everything that goes into that. And now we can see in our colors, we need to change the other corners so they're not black. Let's pick some other colors. There we go. And under the white, maybe that one. Yep. And then down here, this one. There you go. That's nice. I like that. It's just a little white tile. And then the next thing we need to do is, let's just, no, that's all, that's okay. I'll change the float down to 32. I wouldn't need to do it, I don't need to do it on this really, but I'm going to do it anyway because as a rule, if you're working in a 32-bit workspace, which we are, you want to be sure your colors are picking from the image. And if you've got an image which has got 32-bit colors, you would want 32-bit colors going into your actual background layer. So you can do proper color correction later. So there's our background, and I'm going to insert a warp corner position. It's down the bottom of the tools, and immediately you'll see what it does is it kind of like it's a corner pin. It's essentially what it is. So let's just take our image. It's taken the stretch points of the image, and let's position those so they feel more like a sign. And you can see it there. You go. See, it's locked all the way along. So just basically, what our whole process here is rebuilding the sign. Doing it in a way that you would just kind of do these things. Yeah, that's, so you can see that's the dodgy one. We don't want to see the dodgy one though. What we want to do is we want to now insert a tracking planar tracker into there. And you can see that's now going into the time stretcher. So let's disconnect that by pressing Shift, pull away, and then Shift, drop back until we see the yellow and blue lines. And that's now physically connected in the right place. Now, we've been painting on frame 255. So let's go back to frame 255, please. Thank you. And we're going to set that as our reference frame. That's fine. Now, all these lovely tracking tools and that tracking spline there, that little red light that just came on. We'll come down to those in a minute. But we're going to change the tracker type to a hybrid point and an area. So what that does is it takes the points that I'm about to put down. Let's click those in. 2, 3, and 4. A bit high. I'll come back to that. Bring that back down a bit. There you go. And there we are. So it's kind of making the rectangle. That's the tracking area. That's the area that's going to track. And we need to just save the project. And we'll go down here and we'll track it backwards with the track backwards button. The other 4 buttons, what we've got there is to the right of it, we've got track from this frame backwards. And there we go. Let's just let's run out. Let's try it again. Then we've got the stop one, and then we've got track forwards from from a particular point, and then we've got track all the way on the far right. So now you can see here that essentially what we've got is the motion trail of the contents that's actually inside the rectangle. So because it's tracking what's in the area as well as just the corner points. And there you go. So we've got the points and the area being tracked, and you can see that's absolutely rock solid. I mean, that was 2 button presses. That's not bad. I'm pleased with that. So there you go. Let's just stop that. We don't need to keep on watching that through. Here is me scrubbing. It just looks so pretty. It just looks so pretty. I'm not drinking coffee. Now what I'm going to do is I'm now going to take the merge, I'm going to drop that into the foreground of the planar tracker. Because now we've got the track. What we're going to do is going to change the operation mode from track to corner pin. And you can see it's taken the entire image and it's dropped it over, that's right, yeah. And it's dropped it over the top. Now that's because it's trying to work out what goes where. Now we've already got our image. So you can see that piece, that whole image is now tracked and locked to that place. But we don't want the entire image, we just want the bit that we've replaced. Let's just let this cache while I talk about this. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the reference time positions to the corners. Now by doing that, what essentially we're doing is say, right, I want my whole image to be dropped back over the top. So if you, instead of seeing it in that corner pin little area, what you'll do, there you go, you see, is it will in fact just fill out all the way to the end. So that's where it should be, is that should be down in this bottom corner. And I'm doing it this way because it's a little bit volatile if you try and type it in all in one go individually into those reference time positions. And that goes into the top left, and then this one goes down to the top bottom left, and then the values are pretty close. So let's very carefully, I'm just going to, you can see now, if you look, the sign itself is in the right spot. So let's just now very carefully type these in. 0 and 1 and 1, 1. There we go, 0, 1, because I'm an idiot. No, not 11. That's it, Gary, go on. 1, there you go. Nope, 1. I got that wrong. Yep, come on, Gary. 1. Hey, oh, look at this stretch across. And top right, 1. There you go. And then there we go. Bottom left, 0. So that can be -0. It's still going to be 0. And then that was also 0. And then that's 1. And that's 0. There we go. So all of those are now correct. Let's just save again, because as I say, that's a little bit volatile. And now you can see that's on corner pin, and that's got foreground over background. Yeah. And then it's, don't worry about domain, clip it, now we've got the frame here. And what we're going to do now is, if I go back in, change that corner pin to track, you'll see we've got different things we can show there in the output. Background pre-processed, mask, and the mask over the background. Now I'm going to put that back to background. There we go. And so that's accurate, and that sits over the top. And then if you were to move the timeline, you can see, well, hang on. No. What's going on? Background. Yeah, that's right. What's going on? No, that's... hang on a minute, Gary, idiot. Change the corner pin. There you go. So now you can see that sign is, in fact, it's in the right place. But when you play it back, it just looks a bit weird because obviously there's all the other things that are around visible. So let's select that corner pin. We need to put basically that planar tracker. We need to duplicate it. So select it, press Control C. Yeah, that's it. That's what we need to do. But we can't do that. You can't take the alpha mask out of that and drop it directly into that. You'd have to take it out, drop it to something else, and then put it back in. But just for ease, because we've got all the information we need in there. So let's do Control C and Control V. Drop it in there, pop that back in, and then this time we put the output of this and we drop it into the alpha. Now, first thing we're going to do is we're going to change this from a corner pin down to track and change the output from background to mask. There we go. So the output now is just black white, and we'll drop that into the mask point. Thank you. And now, even though you can't tell, that's fixed it. That's done it. It's just got the mask of that other planar tracker going into it, back into itself, essentially. And that's cropping off all of the image. So all the little red bit that you can see around the edges, that's the actual image itself. But we're only seeing the bit that was tracked. There you go. We're only seeing the bit that was tracked in the first place. So that's correct. That's actually correct because that was our area that we tracked, and everything else is being deformed around that. So essentially there, you pretty much got it. That's it. You know, you've taken the slightly cleaned up image you've got, and we've dropped that directly over the top of the gate and removed all the bits we don't want to see because we're using the mask that we've also created just by our shape that we blocked out. But let's add a bit more information here. So let's go and add from the flow tools, let's add an underlay, and we're going to drag this over here, make it a bit bigger, and let's drop our stuff there, unclick, and then everything that was now above it is now in it. So essentially it's like grouping. It's a nice tidy way of keeping it. It's very much a it's very much a nice little thing. You'll also notice that there's a tiny little knuckle just to the right of that, sorry, to the left of that. I don't know, I'm just trying to find, I know I can change the name of the underlay, but I can't remember how. It doesn't matter. Maybe it's just, you can only just do that in Fusion and not in the one inside of Resolve. But that little knuckle that's just to the left of it, if you want to create one of those, what you do is you go to one of your lines and you press Alt with your finger over the top of the line, and it will break it with a little knuckle, which means it's a much nicer way of actually combining things together. But what we're going to do right now is going to move this up, and the grand thing about that sign is it's all doing its job, but unfortunately it's got no text on it. So let's go here and let's go add generator and text plus. There you go. We want to stick this over the top of everything that we've done so far. So let's zoom in a little bit. Using that's actually me using the left and middle key dragging in the window to zoom in, and let's type in private. Here we go, into our text box. Let's change the color. Well, actually no, let's not pick that color. Let's cancel that. Let's do the picker and let's pick a dark color from the scene. Again, it's the best way to do it. And we've got to merge over the top there. Excuse me 1 second. Little cough. We're going to move that actually whilst we're inside of the merge node and move it to where we want it to be, which is fine. I'm going to go back to the text. I'm going to make more of the alteration there. Let's just change the font to something I think all feels a little bit fancy. I want it to just feel like it's a very standard, the sort of thing that you would buy. Yeah, Railway's lovely, but it's too skinny. Scheherazade looks very, very serify. But I want something like Tahoma. I think that's a good get, Tahoma. Or Vidana. Let's go, okay, Tahoma's up front. So let's change that to bold. It's a bit thicker, a bit more sign-like. Lots of non-serify letters. And then let's go into here and we'll just change some transformations. Let's go to lines and let's go to rotation. Actually, let's use shear because I can probably do better with shear. That's it. And just knock that so it feels a little bit more as though it's in the middle of the sign. That's reasonably good. I've got a finger on control and I'm dragging that way, which allows you much more finer control. And then let's just roll it a little bit with the rotation. No, that's not quite. Yeah, that's not so bad. Okay, well, let's call that. Should we call that a done deal? Yeah, let's leave the size. Don't want to touch anything there. And we've got it to be dark. And let's just, anything we want to do here, let's leave that. It doesn't matter about that. It doesn't matter about that. Color's all fine. Let's go into the softness though, and just soften the edges and apply it to the fill color, obviously. Just a teeny tiny bit. I think that's probably a bit too much. Yeah, it's a little bit too much. So let's make that about 0.5. There you go, about 0.5. There we are. And it just takes the edge off the text so it doesn't feel as though it's a bit too perfect. And again, I want to change that as well because that black is still far too perfect. So let's leave that as an image. Leave it as a tool. Image source is a tool. So let's give it a tool that we can plug into it. So what we need to do is generate a brand new item, a generated thing. So let's just give a bit more space here. This is all locked to the grid. You can probably see it's the fact the way it's moving around. It's like dink, dink, dink rather than nice slide. But it does mean that everything kind of stays nice and tidy. If there's one thing that you should keep in mind when you're doing anything with a node graph, is the tidier they are. I know it sounds a bit anal, but it's true. The tidier they are, if somebody else has to open your node graph and deal with it, it'll be a lot easier for them to actually use. So let's go to generator, fast noise, and I'm going to try this. I'm going to drop this directly onto the fill, which is the white, and you can see it's invisible. It's not. The fast noise is white, and it's got transparency over the black. So what we do is we go, right, okay, well, let's go, okay, let's just bump up the alpha. And straight away now you can see black and white. And you can also see, if I click on the information here, the fast noise, that there's like very much a cloudy sort of color going on in there. So let's just go into the noise and let's increase the decrease the brightness, increase the detail, leave the contrast as where it is with the grays, and I'm angling it, but I don't really need to. The seething is for animation, don't need to do that. But I'm going to scale it up a little bit to make it a bit tighter, and let's do that and make that a little bit grayish. There we go. Actually, I'm going to make it, this is not going to work, it needs to be darker. There you go. So let's make these darker, because obviously it's a sign. Make them darker. Let's make them even darker. Come on, it's still going to be pretty black, Gary. Yeah, a bit of dirt, but get it in there. So there we are, and there's a bit darker. And let's just leave that as it is. I'm not going to mess around with that, that's fine. And let's go back to our text, merge, press 2, and there we can see it now. It's the darker colored private. If we go there, and let's just zoom in a bit so we can see the sign a little bit better, I think. There we go. And now you can just about see the noise. If I mess with the detail and the contrast a bit, there you go. So you can see there some whiter bits popping through. If I just adjust the brightness slightly. Scale it down a little bit by making the value higher. Rotate it a tiny bit, maybe. Yeah. Invert it. No, it makes no difference really. It's pretty much the same sort of thing. So now if I click on the media out and then we just play this back, what we'll have is the whole of that sign, because of course we're working inside of what is in that group, that underlay thing, correctly mapped, because it's just a single frame that we're mapping back over our footage. So let's take that back to the beginning and press play, and it'll just cache the shot, which you'll need to do anyway, to be honest with you. So, but it's nice. It's a very simple, relatively simple way of doing stuff, but also teaching you a little bit of paint out, a little bit of creation actually means you can do more than you want to in there. And especially if you're using live action, it's better to use your paint in the shot and pick the colors from the shot, because it means if you're working on 32-bit footage and your background is set to 32 bits, you'll essentially have a fully color correctable plate, which is what you're going to need, especially if you're doing things in Resolve. Most people use Resolve for color correction. This is just an added little extra thing that if you know about, because I mean I've used Fusion for a long time, on and off. Didn't like it when I first started using it, and started to love it later on when I started doing things with 32-bit color. I love After Effects, but it just doesn't have the same brilliance that this has. So there you go. That's actually there locked on. I mean, you can see that's rock solid. Sorry, just drinking coffee. And that's I'm pleased with that. It's not rocket science, but you can, fix things relatively quickly. I mean, what is that, like about 20 minutes? That's not bad. And so here we are. This is the actual final element that's going over the top of the image. First thing we have in the middle here is we have the footage from the media out going into the time stretcher. That then goes into the paint node. And then if you go up, you can see the background, which has been corner pinned, and then with a shadow underneath, it's then been merged over the top of that first section. That then feeds down, and that whole element, which is the fast noise, which is affecting the text itself, and goes in and merges over the top. So there you go. So if in the whole context back of the edit, when you come back to the edit, everything you see, because you've cached it already, just plays back. So there's Ginny, and then there's the view. As I say, I'm not an editor, not really. And then we go back to the gate. There you go, saying private, all playing back beautifully in real time. And also it's rendering as well. It's caching that Fusion file, which is why that line's gone blue. And there you go, really. I mean, that's it. I don't really know what else to say. It's just a really great way of being able to do stuff inside of Resolve. Resolve's amazing, and having Fusion in there, fitted in, is actually absolutely fabulous. Not to mention it's also got a camera tracker in there. Now I know this one in Blender, and that which you can get to for nothing. But in the free Resolve, you can do most of this stuff here in the free Resolve. Obviously the camera tracker is not in the free Resolve, but it's great. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that. Please subscribe, please share. Thanks for watching through to the end, and take care guys, and I'll see you next time.